everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing when you let your nuts hang.
So I was divorced in my late 20s, and this is a story that I've never shared on social media. This is part one. I don't know how many parts I'm gonna do because it's a very long story, but I just wanna do like little digestible nuggets so you guys can watch and listen. I posted about this on my story the other day, and I've had so many people ask like what it was like to go through divorce in my late 20s, what happened, and kind of what I've learned. So I would love to share it with you guys. I will start at the beginning. I was 19 years old when I met this person, and I had just gotten out of a relationship. I was engaged to my high school sweetheart, and I was like 18. The whole wedding was planned, everything, and then he met someone else a month before the wedding, canceled it. It was devastating. I was absolutely heartbroken. That is another story time. So if you want to hear that story, comment below. Needless to say, I was 19 years old and just wrecked. And my self-esteem was in the gutter. I was absolutely not okay. My whole world was turned upside down. And I met this person. I met my ex-husband. And he couldn't have been more opposite from the guy that broke my heart. Looks-wise, personality-wise, lifestyle-wise, like they were completely different people. And I think that subconsciously I associated that with safety, because anyone that I saw that reminded me of the guy that I was engaged to, it just made me feel like insecure, not good enough, and unsafe. So I started dating this guy, and he crossed some serious boundaries in the beginning. And looking back, they were some huge red flags, but I just kept excusing poor behavior because I didn't know any better. I wasn't raised understanding certain things about relationships and what you can and can't say no to. I was raised very conservative, so I didn't know what I didn't know, if that makes sense. And all I knew is that I didn't feel good about certain things that happened. And I just kept overlooking certain things because I wanted to, you know, be the best girl out there and the coolest. And then in the first few months of dating him, I caught him cheating on me. And that compounded with my broken engagement just sent my self-esteem through the gutter, and I was completely comparing myself to other girls. I felt extremely insecure. I just did not feel good enough already, and him cheating on me and me finding out the way I found out was super fucked up. It just sent me spiraling. I wound up giving him another chance because he was so apologetic, and looking back, I should have ran, right? I should have just ran. The first fucking red flag, I should have ran. But I didn't. I stayed. And he just really, really, I feel like I just disassociated, like talking about that. Things changed after that, and I started trying to prove myself to him. Like, I wanted to be the prettiest girl. I wanted to be the coolest girl. I wanted to do everything that he wanted to do and like show that I was like worthy. And looking back, I didn't need to do shit, but I did because I was young and I was naive. And he was older and I was very impressionable. So I spent a ton of time, you know, dedicated in that relationship. And eventually things did get better, right? But I never lost that initial like feeling of like, felt like he never really acknowledged the pain that caused me. And instead it was just like overlooked, like, oh, I fucked up, it was the beginning of our relationship, like I'll never do that again, bye. And it was just a very quick apology. And even though he was very sorry and very contrite in the moment, it wasn't really ever processed with me in a way that made me feel safe long term. So that feeling of lack of safety eventually turned into lack of respect, because the more I did for him and the more I grew myself and the more I grew as a person and as a woman, the more I realized like he's like a little bitch. Like, I don't deserve the way I got treated. And I realized my worth, like in a weird way, that competitive aspect in me that drove me to work and be the best version of myself that I could be woke me up to who I actually was. After all the shenanigans I went through that I talked about in part one, I just focused on working and getting through college so I could graduate and get my college degree. I wanted to become a pharmaceutical rep. So I actually lined up a job before I graduated and which is a really cool story time. If you guys ever want to hear that, let me know. But yeah, I graduated college, and during that process of going to school, I fell into some serious health issues, like really serious. And he was there for me, and he provided for me, and he took care of me. And I think that gave me a sense of security and love. And again, financial security and protection and being provided for is my biggest love language. Like, that is by far my kryptonite in a relationship. So that period gave me this false sense of security with him. Like, okay, he will step up. He will take care of me. Like, he will provide. I will be safe with this guy. And I let my guard down again. So we became, I think, a little trauma bonded as well, because everything that I went through in the beginning of our relationship, and then when everything happened in college with my health, I also felt like I was low-key like damaged goods. Like, he would almost remind me of the situation and make it into a huge deal, which made me feel bad and like I was a burden. And looking back, I mean, I don't know if that was him being manipulative or if he was like genuinely feeling bad. I don't fucking know, but it made me feel less than. And it once again hurt my self-esteem and made me feel like I have to just prove myself more. So I graduated college, I got a job as a pharmaceutical rep, and I started making money. And literally within a year, I started making as much money as he was making. Keep in mind, he was 9 years older than I was. So I was 21, he was like 30. I'm sorry, no, I wasn't 21. I think I was 22 or 23. So he was in his early 30s, and I was already earning as much as he was at that age. And what that does to a girl who needs financial security is I was finding that on my own. And my attraction for him started to low-key fade. I think he could sense that, so he proposed. I said yes. And almost immediately after he proposed, I got a phone call from a girl, and it was one of those hey girl phone calls where she told me all the stuff that had happened during our dating time, during our dating years, during the time when I had health issues. And it was disgusting. Like, it was absolutely horrific. And to this day, I don't know if everything's true. I didn't bring everything up to him because honestly, I think I just didn't want to fucking deal with finding out I was cheated on again. Like, I just turned a blind eye and never brought it up. I did say that she called me, and then he was like, oh, she's a drama queen, da 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 da, whatever she says isn't true. Gave me like the typical cheater cover up, like, oh, she doesn't want us together. Like, okay, cool. So that's why she's calling, because she doesn't want us together. Like, how many girls really want to fuck up a relationship like that? Please. So I stayed, and then we got married. And then after we got married, I just kept working and working and working. And we had a decent first year of our marriage because a lot of the stuff that I like to do, he liked to do as well. So I got really into fitness. I got really into bodybuilding, and it was so much fun. And he was really into that as well. So we had that in common, and that was an area that we connected. So we had a bunch of mutual friends in that world, and it was a good time. But then after a period of time, I started being like, okay, like, bodybuilding and fitness is not my life. I want to make money. I want to grow as a person. I want to see the world and travel. I want to do things. I want to have experiences. Like, I don't want to have abs and then go out to the club to show them off. Like, that was not the life that I wanted. I wanted success. I wanted to live the best life I could and be the best version of myself that I could be. That's what got me into fitness. It wasn't just fitness. It was the overall, I want to be the best version of me I can be. So we started losing things in common, and I started making more money, and he wouldn't want to do the things I wanted to do. Like, I remember just dying to travel and dying to see the world. And he would want to do something completely different, and I would wind up doing that with him. And I would just be so depressed because not only was I going on the trips that he wanted to go to that were usually like to the Keys or something, which, no offense, but like, it's not where I want to fucking go. I want to go to Italy. I want to see the world, especially when I was making the kind of money I was fucking making. Like, I didn't want to stay in Florida. I wanted to go see the world on my PTO, and he wouldn't want to do that. And on top of that, I was the one that was paying for this shit. So it was like a double whammy. I was funding a lifestyle that I didn't want to live, and I was working extremely hard to provide his dream life. And eventually that really started building so much anger inside me and so much resentment and so much depression and so much sadness. And then I started thinking like, wow, so when I came to you and I had nothing, you treat me like shit, you cheat on me, you take me for granted, you disrespect me behind my back. And then all of a sudden I grow and I make more money. Now you're loyal and now you're nice to me, but it's only because you're getting what you want. It's only because you're literally like, I just felt like I was being low-key used. And like, whether that's true or not, that's how I felt. So over time, I just felt more and more alone in our marriage. I felt very, very resentful. I traveled a lot from my job. I kept getting promoted. I kept getting bonuses. I kept like growing in my career. I did eventually switch industries, but I was always in sales and I always made really fucking good money. And then to top it off, he also did a lot of ADD medicine. So for those of you that do not take ADD meds, it gives you extreme highs and extreme lows. So I was dealing with a person who was all the way up here one day, like cleaning the house, organizing our finances, like on it. But like you couldn't even hold a conversation with him because he was so all over the place. And then a week later, he would just be sleeping all day, not wanting to do anything, eating junk food in the kitchen, and being angry and like picking fights with me over nothing. There would be times where I remember like he would want to talk about things for hours and all I wanted to do was sleep, and I would lose my shit. I would be like, please, I just want to fucking sleep. I'm going to lose it. I just want to sleep. And I felt like he would love me one day and then he would just hate me the other. And it was just extremely draining, guys. And I just found myself in a really, really dark fucking place and I was not happy. And I'm not saying he's a bad person, right? We were just very, very mismatched with what we like. Like we literally, looking back, like we don't have anything in common. I do not understand why, like we're completely different people. And again, this is a long time ago. So the person he is today, I have no idea, but I'm talking about him when he was like in his 30s. A lot of people change, but this is just my experience, okay? But so yeah, I just found myself in a really dark place, and then I was drinking and I would literally low-key use alcohol to go to sleep. I felt just like I was losing control over my life. And that is something that was just so hard because I felt like, wow, like I'm working so hard and I have nothing to show for it. And I have had no experiences in this life that I've been dying to have. And I've been investing all of my time and all of my energy and all my effort into this career that's supposed to give me what I want in life. And I have this person who's just like running the show every single day. And I felt like I was invisible in my own marriage. So after everything that happened in part 1 and part 2, I just became very relentless about securing my own financial safety. And I worked really hard. He was very encouraging and supportive. And I viewed that as a positive thing because who wouldn't? You want a supportive partner. What I didn't realize I was getting myself into, though, was a very mismatched situation financially. So for me, financial security is like a non-negotiable. Either I'm going to get it myself, or if my partner wants me to be more traditional, he needs to have that part locked down. Like I need to feel financially safe. That's why I work so hard, and I have been working so hard since I was basically 14. So what I didn't realize was my need for financial safety and security and my drive and my work ethic would result in me quickly out earning him. So we got married and I was in my early 20s, and I was making way more than most of my friends, most of his friends. It was a lot. And our lifestyle kept getting better and better, but it was me funding it. And eventually we bought a house. It was in my name. We got cars, we got a boat. Like it was quite a life. And I always felt like low-key turned off at the fact that I was the person that was providing that lifestyle because I wanted to be the girl in the relationship. But then I felt bad for being turned off because there was like this feeling where I was like, well, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for him and what he's done for me. And looking back, this might ruffle some feathers. I would have probably been further along if I'm honest with myself. If I was not in a relationship, because I had the talent, I had the drive, I had the work ethic, and I did not need anyone's help to get to where I got. And instead of truly understanding that and owning it, I held myself back and I minimized what I really wanted out of life, out of a relationship, because I had this mismatched loyalty and false sense of obligation to this person, because he would not hesitate to remind me of all the things he did for me when I had nothing. And it's fine, but ladies, if you're in a situation where you have nothing and you're with a partner who takes care of you out of his own heart and treats you like a partner, that's great. But if you're very young and you haven't even started earning any money yet, you need to really be careful if you're with someone who's older, who is not financially stable, because you will wind up paying the bills and then you're going to get a divorce and they will fuck you financially, which is what happened to me. So I was in the relationship. My respect was dwindling because I felt exhausted. I was working my ass off. I was out earning him. I was funding the lifestyle. And I constantly felt like I was getting blamed for wanting more. And whenever I would express my unhappiness or my discomfort in the situation, it was met with, well, you should be more happy with yourself. If you are more happy with yourself, you'd be more satisfied. You should just be okay with what you have. You should be thankful. Like it was like, you might as well be speaking a different language to me with that shit, because I always want more. I always want to do better. And I just didn't understand at that point in time that that was perfectly okay. And just because somebody else doesn't want more and somebody else doesn't want better, it doesn't mean that that there's something wrong with me for wanting more. And there's nothing wrong with them either. You know, it's just a mismatch of wants and needs. So I became increasingly unhappy, and he also became more and more unhappy. He would say things like, you're not taking care of yourself. You're not cooking for me. You used to clean the house more. You used to do more of the feminine things for me, and now you're not anymore. So our roles were not what either of us wanted. And I quickly just became very unhappy because I felt like I was expected to do so much and I was not getting what I needed in return at all. And then I would get blamed for where we were marriage-wise because I just felt like everything was my fault. So we started doing therapy. That didn't really help. It just drove me deeper into a more depressed state. And I became so incredibly depressed and so mentally unwell that I don't even recognize who I was during that time. Like, I gained weight. I was just not myself. And I found myself actually drinking alcohol to help fall asleep. I would drink wine. It would relax me. It just helped me like escape reality. I was struggling with an eating disorder and it was at an all-time high. I was just so not happy. I was not okay. And instead of, like, I just was constantly getting gaslit too. Because if I was like, oh my God, I'm not happy because I didn't like the town I lived in. I didn't want to be married to who I was married to. I wanted a different life. Every time I wanted to do things, right? Like, I remember I really wanted to go to Hawaii. And he would always be like, oh, maybe we can go this time. Maybe we can go that time. And then when we went on a trip, it would wind up being a trip that he wanted to do. And I would still have to fund it, right? And eventually, after being with someone like that for almost a decade, you get to the point where it's like, well, what about me? What about what I want? Like, I'm the one paying for all this shit. Like, when am I going to get to go on a trip? When am I going to go get to see the world instead of going on another fucking hunting trip that I'd rather just never go on again in my life, right? Like, I was so fucking over doing the things that he wanted to do. And God forbid I had something that I wanted to do. It was not either it didn't happen or I would have to fight so hard to make it happen. By the time it happened, I almost just like didn't even want to do it anymore. So it was a very unhealthy dynamic. I became increasingly unhappy. And the more I did therapy, the more I realized that it wasn't me that was the problem. It was me accepting the situation I was in and not changing the situation that was the problem. And I was trying to make something work that was actually not ever going to work, no matter how much I tried, no matter how many things I tried to fool myself. And I would try to like convince myself, like, it's okay, Stevie, just be happy where you're at. Like, everyone around you is telling you the same thing. Like, maybe they're right. But there was this little thing inside me that was always like, no, like, you deserve more. You can get more out of life. Like, why are you settling? So eventually I listened to that little thing and I asked him for a divorce. And you would have thought that I told him his best friend passed away. Like, he was so upset. He was so surprised. It was like complete news to him. It was a complete shock, which honestly tells me so much about the marriage as well. Because I remember sitting there and being like, I'm not happy. Like, why are you acting like this is such a shock? It was just such a shock. And I felt horrible. And when he realized I was serious, then he told me, well, I live in this house. My life it shouldn't have to change just because you want a divorce, Stevie. I'm used to this lifestyle now and I can't afford it. So I'm going to go after alimony and you're going to pay me alimony. And that right there, guys, when I tell you, all of my resentment turned into pure rage in that moment. And I lost complete respect for him. I had no more feelings towards him at all to begin with, but when I tell you, like, the level of anger that I went to when he threatened me financially was just another level of anger. I cannot explain it to someone who has never been in that situation, when someone's basically trapping you in a marriage because of finances. And I wound up staying with him for a few years after that because I was so afraid of losing everything that I had worked so hard for my entire life. The house that I lived in, the furniture, like, I poured my heart and soul into decorating this home. I paid for almost every single thing. If there was something that I didn't pay for in that home, it was something that his parents paid for. Like, he did not actually pay for anything in that home. And I was absolutely devastated at the thought of walking away with nothing when I had invested so much and I had spent so much time and I had gone through so much pain just to leave with nothing. So stay tuned for part 4, where I talk about what the actual process was like for those few years before I wound up actually getting a divorce. Again, I hope this story helps somebody. If you are in your 20s and you're thinking about getting a divorce, it's hard, but like, my life got so much better after, and I truly feel like this is when my life began.
Shout out to everybody who watching this live on Twitch. Let's get into it. Now, as far as the alimony thing, I'm going to just start right there. I mean, women go through it, men go through it. It happens when you're the breadwinner in a marriage. Unfortunately, because you're a woman, you feel devastated, but then when it happens to a man, women feel like they, men owe it to them, and you know what I mean? For whatever reason, you know. I guess it's different because maybe the circumstances. I don't know if you guys had kids or whatever, or who was raising the kids. Was he working, or what the case may be? Whatever the case may be, alimony happens. It happens. As far as the rest of the stuff, everything else, man, you grew apart. You realized early on you made a mistake. As you started to grow, you realize you didn't have anything in common. Now, I've been in a relationship, and thank God I didn't make a lot of money, which I eventually did make something. But when I did, the money that I was making and what I was doing, I was realizing that the person who I was with, I had nothing in common with that person. And I was just like, bro, why am I in this relationship? And mind you, it was like, it wasn't a bad relationship at all. It was just, we did nothing outside of the kids. Outside of the kids, it was nothing. So every now and then we'll date, you know what I mean? But other than that, it just felt like we didn't really talk about anything. We didn't really hang out. We didn't really do like it just wasn't nothing. So it was like it was kind of miserable at the same time because when I get home, I'm on my stuff. She get home, she on her stuff, and it is what it is. It's not even like not even being mad at each other, just ignoring each other, just going in our own direction, you know. Um, and then, like she said, you know that makes you want to drink. That makes you want to, you know, smoke a little weed. You know what I mean? Doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing. That you're just trying to, you know, you're killing it with substances. You're starting to go out to the club more often, hanging out with friends. You might even start cheating. You know, things like that. That'll make you do the stuff that you want to do when you're in a relationship like this. And it's like, man, it takes nothing. It take when you're in a terrible relationship like this. It takes just a little bit. If she had somebody at her job, just show her a little bit of attention, it would have turned her on. Just a little bit, just somebody that cared about her and watched her, seeing her change her hair color, complimented her. It would have made her feel so much better and made her realize that she was no longer in love with her husband and she loved this other guy. And she didn't even have to love that guy. She just wanted to be with somebody that made her feel the way she wanted to feel, and that be a problem in a lot of relationships. She was young and she married an older guy, and that was kind of her point of saying that I was young and I really hadn't started my life, and I was marrying an older guy and he had no drive. She didn't know he had no drive. She just knew he was. She didn't even know that he wasn't financially stable. She just knew he had something. So what he had, he brought her into. So he may have had a home that was livable. So they lived, and she was able to get started with her life. Once she was able to get started with her life, then she started to pick up on her grind and she started to make more money, and her maturity level and her drive pushed her to level up in life. Whereas he was never meant to go higher. He never had that drive in his life. That's why where he was at in life was where he was going to be. And he wasn't going to go any further. But her in her young age, she didn't have the mindset to even recognize that. Older women probably recognized that in him. And they was like, oh, no. That's why he went to young women, because what they saw, what he was showing them, love bombing them or whatever. He was because he had a nice physique, he carried himself a little well. They probably liked that, and he could keep up with them. He popping Adderall. He keeping up with the young girls. You know what I'm saying? He still got the blonde tips, wearing the seashell necklaces or something like that. Shopping at Abercrombie and Fitch, stuff like that. Banana Republic. He's still keeping that going. Yeah, but it wasn't keeping it wasn't keeping her it wasn't keeping her enticed. He wasn't she wasn't feeling it, and she was starting to move on. And once she felt it, she actually waited too long. She waited too long. Like, as soon as she started to see the money come, and then of course, if she would have divorced him, and then he would have been like, oh, now you getting money, now you leaving me. Well, sir, you ain't shown me nothing different over the past 5 years. So I wonder if they had kids together. That would be a whole nother thing. Like, she's having kids for him, she's getting money. she's leveling up, she's doing all this extra, and he's not. It sounds like he's just going to work and coming home and running the lifestyle and not paying attention to her, and that is ruining her body, ruining her mind, and just ultimately ruining her. That's pretty much what he was doing. So I don't know. She never mentioned kids. So sometimes money is not where everyone sees their success. Yeah, but if money is not where you see your success, you better be a damn good husband. Why not? If your woman is making good money, just be a good husband. Just pay attention to your wife. You know, when I dated someone who made more money than me, you know what I'm saying? I tried to be the best I could be. It still wasn't enough, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes they still want more. Trust me. It ain't always you. Sometimes they just, and then check this out. Even if a woman that make more money than you, they still want you to make more money. But then they still got a lifestyle that they want you to live up to. So they gotta have that lifestyle and they want you to make more money. But if you don't make more money, that means you gotta work harder. And if you're not working harder than them and still making them happy and still spending that money and still making them you don't got enough time, and then they gonna start feeling resentment because they're gonna be like, you don't spend enough time. And then when you working on your craft or whatever it is to make it better, then they gonna hate you for that. Then they gonna be like, then if you working on your craft too much, or they helping you on your craft and they get mad at you, then they don't want to help you. They're gonna be like, well, do it on your own. And be like, damn, okay. And then if you, man, it's just, you never gonna win with a woman. First of all, you never gonna win with a woman. Just so either you come in as a breadwinner. If you come in as a breadwinner, then you gonna have a chance. If she making more money than you, then you probably ain't gonna have no chance. You ain't gonna have no chance with no woman if she making more money than you. Put it like that. So just break up with her. Just break up with her. If you can't sustain your own lifestyle, just break up with her. Don't even move in with her. Don't marry her. Don't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? But if you can sustain your lifestyle and never move in with a chick, you can do what you want. You can have her your way. You know what I'm saying? But if she making more money than you, you got to be able to sustain your own lifestyle. If you make more money than her, you can. Hey, she gonna follow you, dog.
Everyday people. Day and night. For some women, it can start working in as fast as 1 week.